Like, and then
we have like 4 picks in the top 32.
and then another pick
in the
later
top
on
in the first round.
Yeah, and then the top of the second round.
There's no way like.
Okay. Trade those ones out for some that aren't so shook up.
Welcome to another episode of the American Beer Review Podcast.
Good times with good friends requires good beer. Lucky for us, we know how to pick all 3.
We're a group of friends who grew up in the Pacific Northwest, giving us a jump start on our craft beer journey.
Join us today while Brian,
Alec,
and Chad
review some beer, talk about beer topics, and whatever else comes up. We invite you to pour yourself a drink and hang out with us. Beer time.
Beer time.
Yeah,
Podcast time. Hey, so to start us on our podcast journey today, we have from El Segundo Brewing. I believe, like a lot of our beers we reviewed down in San Diego, California.
We've been on a
maybe
trend.
I think they have a location there. According to my internet research.
I have to think of where, like, I usually feel pretty good about my California geography, but El Segundo is.
Oh no,
me
they are
now.
in El Segundo, California, which is not San Diego.
I think it's closer to LA.
We're having their it's a partner beer with Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Stone Cold Stunner. This is Steve Austin's Broken Skull American Lager.
Thanks, I forgot to grab myself a cup.
And since they've got the little independent craft logo right on the can here.
Mm-hmm.
This is a craft lager.
There you go.
Which we have spent numerous
time
minutes
discussing.
Yes.
Lots of time.
So how much association with Steve Austin? Or is that just
a lot?
Is it? I didn't do it.
Yeah. He actually was on Brewbound getting interviewed by them, like that he is a part of it. And I think they're gonna expand and do more styles, but just him being Stone Cold and like a lager being like the key starting point for him, that he just smashing beers and chugging them, that like it made more sense than being like first Stone Cold beer is gonna be a bourbon barrel aged.
No.
Is he from El Segundo, that
No,
area?
no.
So just a totally
I
random.
think I forget the connection of how
he got hooked up with them.
Yeah, but he has been kind of into craft beer for a while, and then just like it worked out to do it, I guess.
I mean,
like,
he wasted a lot of macro beers.
Yeah.
In the ring.
Yeah.
God, imagine being after he does that, after a match he does, and you got to roll around in that sticky beer.
Right.
Ew. Or the person who has to clean all the beer off the ring.
Had like a mat boy or somebody during commercial breaks going and wiping it down.
Mop it up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So today I previewed you guys with a topic because I didn't want to spend 2 hours
previewed.
I wrote a novel.
You wrote a doctoral thesis.
A manifesto.
Yeah, I literally said, this is my thesis, but we're going to kind of do the cliff notes because we don't want to bore everybody to death. So this came out kind of from a couple news articles I dropped, like a CNBC video on is AB InBev dying because they're making more beer than ever, but they're just having a shrinking market share because craft beer is making more and more beer every year.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, well, yeah, they have to define their metrics as a publicly traded company. Are we growing our market share? And blah, blah, blah. And then another thing about blockchain technology. I'm not going to get into blockchain here, but basically saying that blockchain technology could open up access to the economy of scales that the big guys have for the craft brewer. But I just wanted to put in perspective how much beer AB InBev makes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I needed this kind of for me. So last year, AB InBev made 582 million hectoliters. Hectoliters.
So you got this from a Canadian website.
No, because so they make so much beer now, they no longer report in barrels, they report in hectoliters.
See, and I just always, when I hear Canadians, they do it that way, but okay.
Yeah.
I'm tracking.
So 1 hectoliter is 26.4 gallons. An Olympic pool is 25,000 hectoliters.
Okay.
AB InBev, and this is their worldwide number. This was worldwide numbers. 23,200 Olympic-sized swimming pools. 25 meters by 50 meters by 2 meters deep. We all know, three of us know too well how much water that is. That is roughly 64 Olympic pools of beer a day.
Jeez.
And I sent you that picture, Brian. I did brew 2 1-gallon batches of beer yesterday.
Yeah.
Using my 2 pounds of grain for finished 1 gallon of beer. That is 660 tons of grain. And using my hop schedule for this 1 gallon of beer, 8,250 pounds of hops. Every day. Every day.
Wow.
Now imagine you're a 10-barrel craft brewer
Trying to compete
with a hop grower or a grain producer or be a big account at a grain wholesaler. You are going to struggle to be like a lot of people know in business, the principle of 80-20, 20% of your customers do 80% of your business.
Mm-hmm.
The pure amount of stuff the macro guys buy every single day to make beer is like your needs as a craft brewer is a drop in the bucket. So obviously the price pressure right now is in favor of the macros. So we see traditionally today it's craft versus macro. We're everyone in craft is fighting against the macro guy.
Mm-hmm.
So thrown back to that blockchain technology, they think they can utilize it in some way as a public ledger to allow all the craft brewers to kind of form their own ad hoc wholesale entity to be able to go, hey, we're no longer the 20%, we're no longer the 80% of the brewers who do 20%. We're now a new wholesale entity that needs 20% of the grain, hops, stuff out in the market. But theoretically, I'm going to go further before I open it up for discussion. So theoretically, if that does work out and magically, snap of the finger, anybody who makes beer anywhere, craft brewer, home brewer, because I'm sure they drag the home brewers in somehow, and the macro guys are all paying the same price per pound for grain, for hops, for yeast. Does the battle of craft versus macro now shift to craft versus craft? Because now everyone is buying at the same level, and it comes down to, is your beer good? Or do you have the ability to produce enough beer or get enough beer delivered where it needs to go to get that shelf space?
It's a distribution.
It comes down to distribution, but if we made everything equal, would you ever see a world where a craft brewery is actively advertising against another craft brewery? Ever? Like, 20, 30, 40 years in this magical utopia that I just laid out.
I think at some point, yes, because there's still businesses vying for certain customers. I think just historically, it has been an industry where people tend to just work together. That even though they're competitors, they're still...
It's like the coopetition.
Yeah.
It's growing the craft beer. Having another craft brewery open up down the street doesn't necessarily hurt your craft brewery or pub, because it creates, and like we've talked about it before, it creates now a draw to that area.
Yeah.
And the customer is going to come in and have a couple beers at your spot, is then going to wander down and have a couple beers at their spot, and now you've got an area
that people are choosing to come to.
Right.
it's easier to draw in a collection of customers from outside of your area if there's more there.
Right.
You either singularly have to be phenomenal,
Right.
or there has to be something collectively. Hey, we're going to go and not just hang out at X brewery, but we're going to go to X and Y
Right.
over this trip because it's, 40 minutes away or something like that.
Right.
Going back to your thoughts though about that, I think I kind of wonder if people aren't already doing the collective, like, hey, we need X amount, like, to get into this hop grower, we need to be able to purchase blank amount of hops, and us on our own as a small brewery can't do all of that. So we're going to partner with others. I imagine that at some parts of the country that would be happening. We are in a weird spot of having the hop growers so close,
Right.
that I think that they can make so many connections with those small breweries,
Yes.
and realize that, like, local supporting local. But if you're if you're a brewery in Oklahoma,
Right.
you don't have that same access, and so there may be like, hey, there's 10 breweries in Tulsa, and I'd actually be really shocked if there's 10 breweries in Tulsa.
There
If there
are 10 breweries in Tulsa.
is it that big a city?
Have you ever been to Tulsa?
No.
Just saying, there's 10 breweries in Puyallup.
There is not.
Tulsa's got 10.
I could tell you there's not in Puyallup because I would be going to them more often. But maybe they are working together to say, hey, we really want X new hop that's coming out of Yakima Valley hops, and the only way for us to kind of get on their radar is to do it as a collective, as a chunk to do it. I'm sure there is some cost benefit to that as well.
Economies of scale, for sure.
Yeah, and doing those types of things. So I could certainly see that sort of thing happening. But then maybe it becomes city versus city, not brewery versus brewery.
Well,
that Tulsa works as a collective against,
could be.
Memphis.
My question was there an article attached to that, or was it just your?
There was that block, like the deep blockchain dive article.
I did the TLDR on that one.
Yeah.
As I wonder how much overlap there is in what the macro breweries are using. And obviously, as they get down you go, like, and we've talked about it a couple times, like Elysian is technically a macro brew, so they have there. But like the hops going into a can of Budweiser are not what's going into a can of
Reuben's IPA,
right. And same thing with grain bill. Is it the same farmers that are making that, or are these?
I'm pretty certain they actually have their own like hops producer. Like,
yeah,
they aren't selling anybody else, but yeah. But as the general idea in that, like, utopia, because part of that blockchain article was kind of driving it at what I was getting at, was in a perfect utopia when all costs are equal, where does
well, and it's more than that, it's the sustainability. Branching on that, if you have a brewery that needs whatever 10 pounds of hops a month or whatever, it's hard to sustain a farmer who's going to grow and harvest, and he's not going to make any money growing 10 pounds of hops. But if you did have a collective of 10 breweries, 20 breweries, all using the same blend of hops, now you've created some sustainability on the farming side of it to compete with some of the macro guys, I guess.
Well, and I think even when we were brewing on our own a bit more, like, we had looked at, hey, if we're going to constantly be using this style of two-row, like, we should look at buying slightly more in bulk.
In bulk, yep.
That even us going to the local homebrew shop and doing it like, hey, we're using this same thing every time and buying it in this 6-pound
right
for this one brew,
but
we're going to use the same two-row the next time and the same two. I mean, it makes sense to do it, and I think people are always going to look for that sort of thing.
The efficiencies,
yeah, and I think that's where the cooperation of an industry like the beer industry comes to play. That I've heard it before from brewers that are like, hey, I ran out of this thing or something happened and I was able to contact another local brewery and say, hey, can you help me out? And they're
Right.
not like doing the whole like, no, you're my competition.
Right.
I would never. And so I think that would carry over into this style of thing. But I agree. I think that the macro breweries are doing their own kind of thing. Like take out the like craft beer that they own.
Right.
And just if we're talking about Bud Heavy, Bud Light, Coors Light, those types of things, like they're putting the same hop every single time.
Yes.
They're not branching out. They're not doing whatever. So they have that contract that is set in doing it. And, you know, I mean, it might be Yakima Valley Hops that's doing it. Who knows? But somebody is making that hop that is specifically going into X Bud Light every time.
Right.
And there aren't like little breweries that are like, well, if we could only get this hop that goes into Coors Light, but we just can't get our foot in the door. Like,
yeah.
I think if it were a time where the amount of variety of hops and grain and styles of beer were less, it could definitely be more of what you were talking about, where they're having to battle them and do it. And they might be more cannibalizing each other, but I think there's just like, there's literally new hops coming out all the time. Like stuff is changing and doing it. So,
because what does it say what hop is in this or what they use?
The Broken Skull.
The Broken Skull.
No, I didn't dive, try to find a recipe, but I mean, it's a lager.
Yeah, but I still feel
It's
like
really
a
good,
craft
It's really good.
brewery is still going to use something different than.
Yeah, and they might want to use something that harmonizes with all their other beers. I know there are some places they'll use a similar hop. And so it was funny. So I sat down and wrote that 3-page single-space report that if I was in school, I would write the night before, but I gladly wrote this now. I don't know why. Even by the time I got to the end and went, it felt like me forcing that argument that would happen because you guys are totally right. Craft beer came from home brewing, where it was it's almost like a modern apprentice system, like back in the old days when you didn't have school, you just went and became an apprentice.
Right.
So many of these breweries, like we were saying, the brewery trees, you go learn somewhere and you go out and make your own beer, and everybody's very supportive. I don't think even if the economies scale problem is solved with a blockchain public ledger that gets built, who knows how. I think that spirit of cooperating with your fellow craft brewer is too ingrained in the DNA. And anybody who doesn't want to do that, I think they get rooted out pretty quick, or don't make it, or they're that cutthroat and they're bought up in 2 years by a macro guy. If their beer's worth a shit.
Yeah, I think, and there's been times where there has been like the brewery that doesn't play nice with everybody else. And especially if you're coming in later to a community that's already established, you're gonna you're not gonna be invited to the things. You're not gonna be put apart. You know, if they're doing a festival, it's like, well, you know, we're not inviting those guys because they've just been jerks about stuff. So, I think it just feeds into, you know, not every business can do it that way, but this is just the culture of this industry where they're more helping each other out, being kind of cooperative and doing it. I'm sure at some point it comes down to the bottom line and they're going to do what they got to do to keep their business going. But
yeah, and I kind of feel like if we ever did see a craft versus craft, it would have to be in a single market, because there is going to be a critical mass someday for local craft breweries. Like they're being built every year at a huge clip, but like we grew up in Auburn. Realistically, how many craft breweries do you need to service the beer needs of a town that size? Maybe 3 or 4.
There's 3 right now.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
But I mean,
but imagine if you had 12.
Well, and that's a
That'd just be too many.
Well, but you can talk about it. So there's a few like local examples for us. So Auburn is actually a pretty large city, which really
size wise.
Yes, size wise, that like it spreads out. It has I don't know, close to 100,000 people or something like that. There's a lot now, but you're looking at like what three maybe breweries, and one of them I think closed because the space was too expensive, and they're gonna be trying coming back soon. But then like Sumner, which has only 20,000 people.
I was gonna say a third as many people.
Yeah. There's
and a lot more compact.
2. Yeah, at least 2 there. Puyallup next to it. If you include South Hill, you're talking about over 100,000 people, and they realistic, like not the Ram or the Rock.
Right.
They have 2. So there's no like consistency of stuff, but you can carry on, and just further down the road is Tacoma that has
it's beer
10
city.
to 12. That has. I mean, they have 5 within like a 6-block radius in the brewery district. So there is those types of things that it just. I don't think there's a pure number for that, like what a place can handle or establish. And it just kind of naturally takes care of it.
So that's on people drinking the beer on location.
True.
Right. Once you get into distribution, now it doesn't really matter where you're at.
Yeah.
And there you do see a lot more competition between.
Yes.
Like craft breweries, space. But it's between the distributors.
Yeah.
It's which beers am I carrying and selling as the distributor? What have I bought into? And I'm fighting for shelf space versus not necessarily the other individual breweries, but the guys carried by the other distributor.
Yeah. It's not the breweries battling. It's who has to distribute
Columbia's
them.
Shelf.
Yeah.
Or it's Olympic Eagle or whatever.
Yeah.
It's their shelf, and they're going to put their brands there, and that's where you see actual cutthroat competition. But in terms of craft versus macro, I mean, we weren't drinking beers 20 years ago. But
there wasn't even a craft section.
That's what I was going to say is craft as an overall is fighting for that shelf space. And so a win, getting an extra shelf or an extra whatever row for craft in general helps out the entire industry because those tend to get cycled out with a lot more frequency than some of the macros. Budweiser's probably been on the same shelf in the exact same door at Red Apple, downtown Auburn since the 1980s.
Yeah, man, what was...
Still the only store where you could walk in and buy a flat of beer in the cardboard case. Like it was packed at the warehouse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't really have much better to add to that. Yeah, that makes sense.
No.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, beer review podcast. We got a beer review today?
We do. It is in the cooler of destiny that Brian is opening right now. Today, we have a holiday-themed beverage. Since we are, by the time you, the listener, is listening, we're going to be smack dab in between Christmas and New Year's in the dank portion of the holidays. Once they finish pouring, I will grab the can.
Yep.
So today, boys, we are drinking Up on the Rooftop, a spiced honey holiday ale, special release from Rooftop Brewing Company up in Seattle. Coming in at 6.3, and we're pouring them out of 16 ounces today.
Spiced honey, is that what you said?
Spiced honey.
Okay.
If I'm reading the font right, I am.
So
excuse me.
Brian would probably know. I'm not as aware of Rooftop Brewing.
I've been there a few times.
Cool. Is Up on the Rooftop purely just a play on their name, or is that sort of a theme they go with when they are releasing beers? Are they all?
Not all of their beers are rooftop themed, if that's what you're trying to say.
That's kind of where I was going.
They are like a rooftop location. So the brewery is across the bridge, so on the south side of the Ballard Bridge.
Okay.
So Ballard, Seattle's a big brewing area, large, like one of those. You want to talk about like high density of breweries.
Right.
Yes.
That's kind of a massive place for that. Brewery, the inside is pretty tiny, but their main space is on the rooftop of the building that they brew in. It's an outdoor space predominantly that is on top of the space that they brew in, which is a shared space with a coffee roastery. So you actually find a decent amount of stuff that they do collabs with a coffee roaster.
And where did you find it? Was this
This was
online or in a grocery store?
no, this was my Total Wine excursion.
Okay,
I
so-
think everyone will see the results of that on the gram here.
The first thing, getting back to the beer, it's almost red, like it's kind of like a. I don't know if I'm
a reddish amber,
yeah.
a little hazy.
When we went through this with the other winter beer, I never am quite sure anymore now of what exactly to expect. When somebody says they have a holiday something, so
Yeah.
But at least I think this one with it saying it's an ale makes me feel like I'm not getting stouty necessarily.
Yeah, it's not a winter warmer.
Yeah.
But I'm picking the honey up in the beginning, and the spice is subtle.
Yeah, I definitely
I'm
got.
smelling this. I smell the spice a little bit more than I get, but overall, this is a very satisfying sip.
I definitely
It's
am
a little
getting
caramely, a little malty,
spice and
but
caramel.
not heavy.
I'm not really tasting the honey, at least.
Not getting a ton of honey in it. A little bit of spice to lead, but finish is pretty clean.
Yeah.
I get kind of a flowery thing up at the beginning. Most of that sweetness was fermented out on the honey.
Brewed with fresh ginger, honey,
Ginger.
orange zest,
That's what it is.
and cinnamon.
So yeah, the
It's
ginger.
one of those where you're like, I can't
Yeah.
place this thing, and then as soon as it's like
Yeah.
stated,
Because we're like, there's not a ton of hop flavor. It's the ginger that's coming through.
yeah,
You're getting
the-
spiciness from the ginger, and then now tasting a little bit of that orange peel, orange zest.
Yeah, I'm gonna let this one sit. I think this might be one as it warms up a little bit, some of those flavors will
Might come out a little bit.
come out in the glass a little bit more.
I'm trying to remember. I think it was I can't remember who online that I was saying it, but like talking about like bourbon barrel ones that actually should be drank more closer to room temperature.
Right.
So I mean, we keep it chilled.
Until it's time to serve.
Yeah, there was one that I had. Thelonious Monk, I think, was the beer, a Belgian-y one. And
I
a friend
think
of mine
I've had that once.
he shared it with me, and he actually told me, he goes like, keep it in the fridge, but when you're ready to drink it, like
Take it out 15, whatever.
Yeah,
20 minutes
and I
beforehand.
actually then like spent a little bit of time just like holding the glass, like trying to kind of add some temperature to it and to kind of bring that up a bit. I didn't like do a taste test, beforehand, trying to see was there a change, because I it was my first time drinking it. I wasn't gonna like drink it cold when I was told not to and be like, oh, this sucks. I don't
Right.
really want the rest of this or something. But
No, that I think for me this could be a normal fridge.
You put this on inside for seasonally
Yeah.
though, right?
No, Thanksgiving to Christmas.
Mm.
Yeah, this would be right on the inside door of my. Rip that door open. There it is. I don't know if I would have two of these in a night. Just because I want to wake up in the morning. A pint at 6%, and then I'm probably maybe have one more, and I'm good for the night.
Because of the
But
flavor.
but this is a good. If I can only have one beer, this is a great just have one beer for me.
I think for me the flavor profile puts me more at just having one
Yes,
in a
that's where I was
collection of
gonna
them. And I think I could see stocking it in the beer fridge during the holiday season, but it's not like a frequent grab and go for me.
Right.
But definitely like I would buy like a 4-pack or a.
I would love to see this in a 6-pack. I think 12 would be good, and then that'd be good for
Like a
handing
like
out a part.
12ers, like 12-ounce 6-pack.
Yeah, 6 to 12.
And we'll see as it warms up what it does to the flavor, because we've touched on it a couple times. This is more of a sipping beer.
Yeah.
Than something that you're gonna slam or chug. You're not finishing I mean, we split a couple 16s.
Yeah.
I would not finish the
I
whole
have more if someone wants them.
I would not finish the whole 16 while we're sitting here recording.
No.
Yeah, this would be a good beer to have poured if you're like at a cocktail party, but you're having beer.
Yeah.
And you need something that I'm going to walk around with this for an hour.
You're bringing it to Friendsgiving.
Yeah.
You're sharing with the other beer drinkers. You're bringing a 4-pack. You're going to have one. You share someone else. You may end up taking one home. You may not.
Right.
But like, yeah, it's your one that like, especially put it into a nice glass and kind of just walk around with it and have it as like, you know, the thing to talk about. Oh, hey, what are you drinking? Well, it's you know, ginger and honey and cinnamon and.
No, it's got very interesting flavor profile, very good, and it will be if it drinks well as it warms, it'd be perfect for that. So I think I would put it in a seasonal beer fridge, like I said, hand out to somebody who's coming by, but you're giving them like one of them.
Yeah.
Like, hey, sip on this while we're watching the game or we're hanging out.
Yeah, we're watching whatever football game on the way to having dinner. Here's a.
Yeah, and I think I'll actually make a
starter beer.
I think I'll actually make a trip next year, to the same bottle shop. Make sure I get like 8 of them just to have in the fridge through the holidays.
Right.
I think I'll make a special trip for it.
Wow.
Funny story. This is actually a year-round beer for them. One of their top sellers.
Everywhere.
Based on the can, I'm gonna go with probably not. Yes, but it is very festive. Reindeer and
but maybe they change the label up every year. I think that if I had a special release and I had to sticker my beers, I would have different artwork every year just to keep throwing people off. Like, I'm looking for the Up on the Rooftop Holiday. Yeah, it's this one. Well, that's not what it looked like last year.
Yeah, I got a topic for a future podcast, but
ironically canned on Halloween.
But yeah, if you had the Starbucks holiday cup, where it was like, what is this year's design gonna be, and then you'd save a can,
and they make labels where you have 2 layers, so the outside could be the same Christmas wrap every year, and you unwrap the outer label for the brand new inner label every year. And then one of them is a golden one, and you get to go to the brewery
and swim in a
to avoid perilous death after perilous death until you become the brewery owner and then hop into a glass elevator.
That took a weird turn there.
Yeah, it did.
Went in an odd direction.
Yeah, I had to veer us off into some beer news.
Yeah.
Where we're talking about veering off onto a walkable trail where you can pre-order beer and get it and keep walking and work off that beer.
I think I missed this one.
Maybe.
Did you send this one out?
Yes. So basically...
Oh, yeah. I kind of remember
I got you.
Yeah. So over in, like, we had kind of talked about an open beverage beer zone.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
A couple guys, Jesse Roch and John Groth, worked with a local, not a BBB. What am I thinking of? Basically, they work with some local breweries and bars along this 8-mile metropolitan branch trail in Washington, D.C., and made like a beer passport. So they worked with like the city to get it all dialed in. So you put this beer passport on your phone, I assume. And as you're walking down the trail, you can go, oh, hey, that bar up there, I can order a beer right now and it's waiting for me. I can pop in, drink it. I get a little check mark on my passport and you go collect them all and you get, I think you get access to something. But I thought this was a really cool idea that you could do right now to avoid all the red tape of we're going to let people walk with open beer down the core of the city.
Yeah, because they're not walking with them, but they are walking to them. So it's kind of like a
pub crawl.
The digital pub crawl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does say there's no app. So part of that is like
I had saw that, and I assume they did, or they're just. I don't know how would you put your order in before.
Well, you just like on a website because there is some benefit. Like, part of me, I'm getting tired of having to download a new app for everything that I go to or everything that like comes up. But at some point, like I get not having to memorize a website or have something going on. But if they just had like a QR code, like because I noticed there's like some posts that are saying like, "Hey, go this way to it." Like there's directional things as a part of this trail to help you out. Throw a QR code on that, I can scan it while I'm walking, and then have my order ready by the next thing. One, I think this is great promoting, getting out, walking, moving between different locations while doing it.
Right.
So I kind of like that aspect of it.
Well, it ties into the coopetition aspect
Correct.
of the craft brewers.
Yeah.
We're going to drive more interest into the whole area. We're all going to rise working together.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this, and I think you can see this happening in different communities where they're kind of realizing that. Some are bigger scale, like so there is in British Columbia, Canada, they have the BC Ale Trail, and you can they'll help you focus down into like, oh, I'm going to this area, and hey, here's the few that you can do. There's a place just outside of Vancouver called Port Moody that a few years ago was pretty famous because it had 4 breweries within about 2 or 3 blocks of each other. There's now 6 in the same stretch of street, and it becomes that destination place. And there is that, like, me and my wife went up there because we heard about this place and we heard about these, and we can go to that destination and do it.
Right.
Adding, it's a beautiful day, and I can then get some exercise, some walking in between. Yeah. Like I think that's a great thing. It's kind of a fun idea. It's sort of free advertising. I mean, I don't know if the companies are buying into this. It talked about they could set up different like promos and things on their own. So you're not kind of like
so you get your passport stamped at our place. Now you get access to 15-20%. You get an exclusive discount or something at our place.
Just like a happy hours for passport members or something like that.
There are some of those, I mean, happening in different areas. There was one here called Wobble, Washington Beer Lovers, that has struggled through the pandemic to kind of keep membership going because they were based on like you bought in, and then the idea was that throughout the year there's different festivals, and that's where they make the most of their money.
Right.
Is going to the festivals. Festival attendance has been down, so they've struggled with that. They're actually suspending operations for the next like 5 or 6 months. But you have there's a new one that just came out called like Beer Nav or something like that, and you are basically buying in, but then different breweries have this same thing. So this is the difference. Is I don't think for the one that you were talking about, the walking trail, you're having to like buy in as a passport member. But this other one is all through the state of Washington, Beer Nav, where you can, whatever the dollar amount is, but then I go to Alec's Brewery and I can get 10% off and 10% on t-shirts or things like that. So it's a little bit of like
you paying up front or you paying on the back end.
Yeah. So you kind of get in and create it, and you do have that passport. And I think that's
because you did a couple of years ago. Oh man, I'm gonna say a couple of years ago and stick
but it
with
was really like 6.
Yeah. Was it the Wobble?
Yeah.
Where it was if you visit a certain number, was it like 50?
50 gets you the free membership for the next year.
So but how many then trips did you make specifically to go visit a brewery that you hadn't been to?
Tons.
Right, just to get that next year. So how many dollars did that generate? In
that year, I still remember that year because we hit the point of like realizing like
we're at 40.
Because 20 gets you like the nominal, like the basic prize, like a cup, a hat, something like that.
Right.
In addition to the t-shirt you bought when you became a member. But yeah, 50 gets you the whole membership paid for the next year. And so at some point we kind of realized like, oh, this could be a thing. So we started, hey, we're going to go like to Yakima. Let's see, can we hit 4 different breweries? I don't go to Yakima that often. In the state and out of the state. I think that's the same year we went to Port Moody in BC. I went to 62 unique different breweries in like a year.
Right.
Which you could almost do in just Seattle now.
62 in just Seattle.
I think in the city limits there might be close to 60 breweries.
But Tulsa can't have 10.
Man, I'm just saying. Seattle, come on.
No, they got the new Sylvester Stallone show from the.
I'm gonna go look this up.
Tulsa's gonna be,
but yeah,
happening spot.
I'm a huge fan of these things. They co-promote each other.
Yeah.
The big thing, having the walking trail, having the connections to other stuff. Yeah, I like it. I wish more places could do it.
And I think
figure it out.
And I think we got a lot of places in our area where next to parks, next to trails, I think it would be a slam dunk.
Next step is just letting me carry my beer from one to the next one.
Yeah.
Listen, what if I'm just on the trail? I'll just stay on the trail.
Just on the trail, and you're in your commemorative, totally biodegradable aluminum cup.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think aluminum
You have to
can be.
You have to walk inside the designated beer lane.
Yeah, I'll stay in the beer lane. Yeah, it's the
beer lane.
The wanderer lane. I'm staying out of the walker lane. I'm staying out of the biker lane. I'm just in the beer lane.
There we go. We solved it. All right.
Yeah.
And now, to wrap up, another list.
Oh, I saw this one.
I think I posted it, and I didn't look at it at all.
And this is the first list on a podcast I've ever been able to rip through and be the leader on.
Nice.
We're ripping through this bitch.
Okay.
Lightning round.
See, I got distracted by looking at how many breweries there are.
Yeah, so
in Tulsa.
this is off Yahoo, so it's pure clickbait. So number 25.
But did you tell them what the list was?
Oh,
the 25 worst beers.
Okay, so I just wasn't paying attention.
It didn't come out.
Okay.
We all like.
Okay,
oh yeah,
so,
this is the list we're talking about.
Okay.
We didn't tell anybody what the list
so
was.
excuse me, as of October 14th, 2020, these are the 25 worst beers in the world.
2020
ranked.
Yes.
How? Because I saw it, but I wanted to be surprised.
Can I look at the?
So this is the bottom 25 on Beer Advocate.
Oh, so like.
Yeah, so they
people
went
rated.
Yes.
Okay.
That's all they did.
Okay. And these are all craft?
But how many of these lists had more than 5 minutes of research?
There's no way they're. I don't think they're all craft.
No. Okay, so number 25. Bush Heavy.
I do not disagree.
But yet, I've drank a lot of them.
Yes.
Heavies?
Yeah, when we went to the race in California.
Yeah,
the heavies were $1 cheaper.
Oh, they were.
And so and they're only like point. It was a minimal amount of more alcohol that I was like, okay, so say it was like a Busch Light was $8 and a Busch Heavy was $7. So every like 7 beers, I got one for free compared to you guys.
Yeah.
We showed up or Thanksgiving at my parents' house.
Yeah.
My dad bought beer for the party or whatever.
Oh, and you didn't burn the house down, right?
We did not burn the house down. The turkey turned out fine. We ended up deep frying a whole bunch of stuff. But my dad bought beer, and my brother got there like an hour before me, and he sent me a picture, and it was just a case of Bud Heavies. And I'm going, what's going on? Why would you buy Bud Heavies? He got mad enough that he left, went to the store to go buy Busch Light. Not Bud Heavy, Busch Heavies. Went back to the store, bought Busch Light just for...
He was that mad because it was Heavies instead of Lights.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Let's go.
All right. Well, speaking of Budweiser, number 24, Budweiser Select. Never had it.
Is it still around? I thought that got replaced with like Platinum. Or am I thinking too? No,
oh no,
Platinum
the Select.
Was there.
No,
Yeah,
I think the Select
different.
is the Platinum replacement.
Yeah.
No, Platinum's
still kicking around. There were a few cases.
3.1.
I think Select was like their Molson.
3.1 grams of carbs.
Yeah.
And 99 calories.
Yeah.
Select was like their healthy option.
Okay.
Platinum's their high age.
I have never. Oh yeah. So I've never had a Select.
Yeah. Number 23, Keystone Ice.
It should be. I love me some Keystone Light. We had an article on the website back in the day. Ice will mess you up, and I do not know why. My dad loves it. He probably doesn't drink 6 of them in a sitting.
I'm not man enough to try one now in my advanced age.
I prefer the flavor of a Keystone
the flavor
Ice
is fantastic.
versus a Keystone Light.
But if you have more than one, your day is ruined.
Pack of them. It's going to be a rough morning.
I think I order groceries ahead of time, and they replaced my lights one time with ice.
Right, that's what I'm saying with Busch Heavy versus Busch Light. You're like, it's not the same.
It's
feel.
not the same. Sorry, real quick tangent. They tried to replace my Rising Crust Supreme frozen pizza
Okay.
with a flat crust veggie pizza.
I was gonna say cauliflower crust.
Yeah,
or
but it's-
something.
They went
I'm
the
like-
exact opposite of what you ordered.
Yes, thank you. All
On
right,
every
next.
single word. Okay, 22, Sleeman Clear.
What?
Yep. 21, Red Dog from Miller Brewing Company.
Oh, my dad used to drink Red Dogs like
Yeah.
20 years ago.
I don't. Wow.
Number-
Okay.
Number 20, O'Doul's.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Red Dog. I looked at the picture. I know Red Dog now. I've never
Yeah.
had one.
I've
never
seen
had
it.
one either.
Yeah.
19, Coors Light.
Now they're just being mean.
I know. 18, Keystone Red.
I've had it.
AKA Keystone Heavy.
I've had it one time. There was a convenience store one time that had the red cans. I bought the 2 that they had on the shelf, and it was like the biggest thing. So me and my brother
It's-
mixed Keystone Blue, Keystone Red, and Keystone Black
Yes, they
In
could.
one night.
in one. And yep.
It's so rare they didn't even have the Keystone Red.
They didn't even have the
Picture.
Keystone
I've seen
Ice picture either.
One
yeah.
time.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Yeah, and in the pictures they couldn't find. They're using the same stock image. Like I said, it took them 5 minutes
So
to write.
I
this.
mixed all 3, so I don't remember what it tasted like.
Perfect.
17, Carlton Cold. 16, Corona Light.
Oh, the Carlton's a Foster's subsidy. So you got to realize these are global too.
Mm-hmm.
So these are like their versions of
Right.
Keystone.
15, Keystone Premium.
Oh, by the way, Corona
Keystone
Light.
Premium.
Corona Light should be worse. Corona to me is like top 5 worst beers.
Oh, you should be higher up on the list.
Yes.
Yeah.
Higher or lower? I don't know.
Have you tried fruiting
14.
it?
What's the difference?
Yeah, have you
between...
tried?
Wait,
Close
what?
the list.
Have you tried?
I'm the list guy today.
Have you tried fruiting it?
Yeah,
Put a little lime in there.
it marginally. It's like the only way to make it tolerable.
Right.
Wait, hold on. Did
Hey,
we talk
quit-
about no?
quit
the
going in
premium.
front of me on the
I'm
list.
not. I'm at the premium.
All right.
What's premium?
I have no idea.
No
my guess
clue.
is
Never
it's
seen it.
their even higher. They can't be higher than ice. But
I think they're just making up beers at this point.
that's 3 Keystones on this list.
Yeah, and still not the light.
Somebody's
Oh, we're not
got a
there.
grudge.
Hey,
All right,
we're at 14.
I'm not
We're
looking at
14.
the list.
14, Bud Light Clamato.
Oh, absolutely agree. I like a red beer, but clam has no business being in my beer.
Yeah, this is the Clamato Chelada. The normal Bud Light Chelada is
Fine.
an S tier beer. I don't care what anyone says. It is an S tier beer in my eyes.
Yep, it's a perfect summer.
Oh, during the summer.
Yep.
Only during the
Yep,
summer.
add some vitamins. Get that clam out of my beer.
13, Michelob Ultra.
It's boring.
12, Busch Light.
Makes sense.
It's
Okay, fine.
it's fair. It's fair.
I don't
You
think
can't
I
ta-
don't agree, but
For
sure.
The thing that I was gonna say earlier is you got to realize this is from like the same website that's ranking all of these like craft beers. So someone who's a craft beer drinker and you hand them a Keystone Light, they're
You-
not ranking
you
it that
put-
high.
A Bush Light or a Bush Heavy, which one are you gonna grab?
Busch Light.
Right?
I just told you my Bush Heavy story.
They have Bush Light. To your point, they have Bush Light ranked worse than Corona Light.
Worse or better? I don't
Want to
this
be the
list-
worst.
We can do a retrospective.
Yeah. Go ahead. Next.
After the pod. 11, Bud Ice.
Yeah, I agree.
I've never
Yeah.
had that.
10, Busch Ice.
Yep, I agree.
Number 9, Bud Light.
Again, they're just knocking
Yeah.
the macros at this point.
8, Milwaukee's Best.
Has there been anything not
Light.
macro on here?
No, I mean they're all but they're
Yeah.
going after Milwaukee's. The Beast is deservedly in the top 5.
Yeah, but this is
This
the
is
light.
8.
8 was the light. 7, Beer 30 Light from Melanie Brewing Company. That must be
In
an East
the-
Coast.
That's a grudge.
And they're making me go. Are they going to try to paywall me?
No,
Okay,
this
good.
one is interesting.
Number
It is a small brewery that they basically are like treating it like it's a big one. Like
So the brewer slept with the guy's wife or something.
this is it's the review says somehow the light offering from this small brewery in Wisconsin got lumped in with the big dog breweries. Man, but 7. Yikes.
the best publicity they've had because now I'm actually
Yeah, you're on
interested in picking
you're
up
on a
can,
list.
It is a beer called Beer 30 Light.
right?
No, us talking about this on this podcast is the best advertisement they got because nobody read this fucking article. 6, natural ice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
Natty had no flavor. Natty ice, just the sting.
Did you just make it almost? It's a natty that's almost 6%. Like that's terrible.
We found it, guys.
Uh-oh.
Number 5.
No.
Keystone Light.
Again, you put Keystone Light higher than any of the ices that
Keystone Light
higher meaning worse.
Higher meaning worse. Yes.
Yeah.
One is the worst.
I would put it above all the other Keystones.
Well, but
I don't care.
But you said earlier the ice has better flavor. It just messes with you.
Yes.
So
But Keystone Light is a better overall beer compared to Keystone Ice. Even though Keystone Ice tastes better.
If you're doing it flavor only, I disagree. Which one am I going to grab? I'm not going for the ice anymore.
No.
Yeah.
I'd go for one.
Number 4, Sharps. Miller Brewing Company's NA offering.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Number 3, Natty Light.
I mean, I can't disagree. I've had a ton of them, but all.
Have you had any in the last decade?
I don't. I think I
The
probably.
last case I bought was at a Rite Aid in Ellensburg.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think I
20 years
stopped
ago.
drinking those at 22 and a half.
The last natty I bought was a Natter Day.
Oh,
Totally
God.
different?
We
Different?
did drink those, didn't we?
Yeah. They only came in 30 packs.
They did not come in 30 packs.
No, initially.
Yeah, then they had to start getting rid of it. So they said, well,
Just
yeah,
bring
we'll
it back.
start. Please buy 6.
Yeah.
Number 2, Budweiser Select 55.
What the heck?
They brought that out right after. I can't remember if. I think they brought it out after Miller was doing the Miller 64.
Right.
Oh my God. It's even. So that one, the whatever select one, this is 55 calories.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, they went too far. Like, you
feel
can't
like
go
I
past Michelob Ultra.
I'm starting to think I had one of these.
And number 1, man, I don't know. Miller 64?
They're the same thing. I mean,
But Miller 64 wasn't bad. Like,
The flavor
it tasted like watered down beer, but I knew it was watered down beer because it's 64 calories.
It was
and
also-
I could drink an entire 30 bomb in one sitting.
2.8%.
but you go from more taste, less filling to no taste, even less filling. And yeah.
But they were ahead of the curve because now it's, man, I could drink a bunch of beer and not get drunk. And not drink a lot of calories.
Calories, yes. 2.8.
But you need the flavor.
Yeah.
I think the novelty is when I found Miller 64. Like I was grooving with that. Yeah, I can crush 6 beers
Right.
and feel fine. Yeah, I think that's another ABR patented disappointing beer list.
I mean, it makes
But-
sense. I would assume if you went through Untapped and looked at the worst, like,
Well, I
you're gonna
think-
find a lot of the same things.
Well, you're also on, so put in context, you're on Beer Advocate.
That's
So
what I'm saying.
This isn't sales. This isn't your general beer consumer. This
Yeah.
is somebody who is going out of their way to review beers. Obviously, a lot of these are going to pop up in there. Because if you're a standard Busch Ice drinker, the likelihood that you're going on
Beer Advocate to tell people about it.
to rate it is very.
I have
very
seen
low.
some very serious reviews of really shitty beer on Beer Advocate.
Do you know what it just? I was looking up some of the light beers that I've checked in. Do you know what wasn't on the list?
Keystone Light.
PBR.
Miller Lite, PBR.
Weren't on this list.
We're
Yeah.
not on this list.
But PBR, I think like people are intentionally going.
I
and
was
buying
surprised-
that as like you're choosing that one. Like that's what I'm saying. Like that's why I kind of jokingly looked at it. Like I think I rank PBR or like Rainier at like 4 stars and above.
Yeah.
But it's because I'm choosing those as my light, quote unquote, macro beer choice type of thing.
Yeah, but nobody's accidentally ordering an ice.
No.
Anything.
No.
All right.
All right.
Let's go drink an ice.
Right. Well, our beers, as you can tell, are now empty. Hopefully yours are as well. And we'll see you next time.
You guys getting a pretty good buzz in the
Yeah.